I'm Anissa Sakile, and you're watching the East Daily Download.
This is the East Daily Download. This is the East Daily Download. This is the East Daily Download. That's right. This is the East Daily Download.
So let's get started.
Please welcome our headliner to the stage, Mark.
Hello, and welcome to the East Daily Download, stand-up comedy day here on the show. My name is Mark. I would normally say I'll be your tour guide, but today I'll be your stand-up comedian of choosing because we are talking about comedy. Listen, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world, so the opportunity to laugh is really important for all of us. So what would you say if I told you that the world of stand-up comedy has a really good tie-in here to Eastern North Carolina? It's true. See the picture on the screen right here? This is a Mr. Grant Janik. He went to ECU, and he is a stand-up comedian. We're going to learn a lot about Grant today. We thought we would dive in on this one very special topic and talk about comedy, talk about the art of comedy, about the comedy scene, Eastern North Carolina, into the Triangle area a little bit. But Grant, again, went to ECU, and Anissa had the opportunity to sit down and talk with him on a Zoom recently. So we thought, let's just dive in, meet Grant, find out what he's all about and his career, his connection to ECU. Let's take a look.
So today on the East Daily Download, we're very excited to welcome comedian Grant Janik. Grant got his start here in Greenville, and now you've had so many amazing opportunities, from working with Mr. Beast to Netflix and teaching even. So I just wanted to thank you for being here on the show today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure, and I'm really excited.
Yes. So could you talk with me about your start here in Greenville, and how did you go from there?
Well, I originally came for college. I went to ECU for a little bit, and I was a theater major at the time. And in high school and in college, I kind of wanted to do stand-up, but I didn't really know how. And I was on an improv troupe called Swish Improv. Shout out Swish. But when I was in it, my improv captain named Jake Weddle, really funny guy, he did stand-up himself. So he was like, Grant, why don't you come and perform? And so I started doing some mics, and I just fell in love with it. And it's kind of grown from that start.
Wow. And that is really amazing, because I was able to see you at Pitt Street, where you were saying it really started, where you got up and started doing those performances. But could you talk a little bit about the comfort aspect of it? So what was it in you that was saying, okay, you're going to take these jokes from paper to reality, and how were you able to get up in front of those people and do it? The improv probably really helped.
The improv helps. If you want full honesty, I'm never really comfortable up there, because you never know what's gonna happen when you get up there. Like, I've had jokes where I've told many different crowds and they've worked, and then for some reason, I'll just go and perform the same joke the same way, and it just will not work. So I'm really rolling the dice every time I get up there. And the one thing that he told me, and it's the only piece of advice I've ever listened to, is never take advice from another comedian, because they're going to give you advice in their own style. So really, it's just about getting up there and doing it and making it to where it becomes your own style, only unique to you, because you're the only one who can truly critique yourself.
That's a great point. And I'm that type of person as well, where, I can listen to people's experiences, and I definitely always appreciate advice, but going into something on your own and really figuring it out for yourself, I think that's important with every field. And it seems like, the same with comedy. So could you talk to me about that community that you've been able to build here, starting with, improv, stand-up shows, and then how that's grown in different states and different opportunities?
Well, it's amazing, because when I first started, I never realized like comedy was big, in like all over like any little town, there's always a comedy scene, which is really interesting to me. It was crazy to see just like all these people from all different backgrounds just coming together for the sole purpose of joy and laughter. And that's one of the reasons I really fell in love with stand-up.
Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Use the hashtag East Daily Download.
Hey, we're back here on this very special edition of the East Daily Download Stand-Up Comedy Day. And we are talking to our friend Grant Janik. You can follow him on Instagram, Grant_Janik. This is a picture of him here with a troupe he was part of, comedy troupe, where he honed his skills a little bit. Now, we are going to talk to him a little bit more about his influences, some of the people he's worked for and worked with, but we want to talk right now about the comedy scene. What it's like here in Greenville, Raleigh, traveling around, honing his skills. So let's jump back into the interview with Anissa and find out a little bit more about Grant.
So could you talk to me about that community that you've been able to build here, starting with, improv, stand-up shows, and then how that's grown in different states and different opportunities?
Well, it's amazing because when I first started, I never realized like comedy was big, in like all over any little town, there's always a comedy scene, which is really interesting to me. So when I went to Raleigh, the scene was so much more big there, obviously bigger city, bigger scene. The thing is, everybody knew like the Greenville guys. We have some people down in Wilmington that we knew. And so it became to me that North Carolina sense of community where I know I can like literally message any one of these guys if I'm ever going through anything. And I may have just performed with them on one show. And what's even crazier is when you start going to other states, like I'd go to Illinois or I'd go to New York, they would know some people from Raleigh. And so to me, it's not about what cities you're in. Comedy is one enclosed community. And once you're in, it's all about just, heck, there's a shared bond. So everybody's doing what you're doing, and everybody, instead of making rivalries, wants to kind of help build up to this community to where it's at a point where we can be proud of it.
Yeah, that is so important. And then to have that support and know that, they're going to be backing you no matter where you perform and where you go. I think that's great. So you talked about the community, once you're in it. What about for people who might be watching that are interested in maybe getting up for their first stand-up show or wanting to, get in that door? What advice would you have for them?
Everybody gets into it for different reasons. But at the end of the day, we're all there for one goal, and it's making people laugh, which is very important. So honestly, my only advice would be just do it. I hear a lot of people all the time. I try to convince as many people as I can to do stand-up at least once. And, the common objections I hear are, I just don't think I could be funny up there, or I don't like seeing other people's reactions. If you want my opinion, I don't like seeing other people's reactions too. It's a small secret. It's in my contract every time I perform. If the lights can be turned up really bright on me so I can't see them, yeah, I'd prefer it that way. But in terms of just like not being funny on stage, it's gonna happen. You will mess up on stage, but it doesn't matter how many times you fail on stage. What matters is what you do after. Every time I kill a show, I learn nothing. And every time I mess up on a show, I improve. So you want to mess up.
That's important. Everything cannot be a hit. And you got to be able to take from those misses or the losses and then go back. Because if we get too discouraged, then how are you going to grow? How are you going to keep it going?
Right.
Hey, we are back here on the East Daily Download special stand-up comedy edition. Comedy in general, stand-up comedy specifically. I'm working the room here with this. Hey, yes, ma'am, can you tell us where you're from? Can't hear you. No, pipe down, heckler. What? I'm sorry, I guess you can't hear because they're not mic'd in the audience. Okay, anyway, what we're going to talk about with Grant Janet coming up is his affiliation with Mr. Beast, a big local YouTube celebrity here in the Greenville, Eastern North Carolina area, and how he got his start working with Mr. Beast, doing some skits and sketches that they do online. So let's hear more from Grant right now about that.
Mr. Beast is a really huge, name in Greenville
Of
and
course,
beyond. I can't imagine. I just couldn't believe how he has transcended, space and time just with his name and those YouTube videos. So could you talk with me about working with him and what was your role with the Beast Squad?
So I started working for him early on in my comedy career. So I was still kind of new and adept, still trying to figure out my style. And I'm so thankful for, Mr. Beast, the crew there, the people that hooked me up with the job. This was a truly dream come true because this was my first ever job in the field that I was looking at doing. So they just used me as, I was an idea guy. You know how Mr. Beast has a lot of crazy ideas. I was just somebody else to be in the room to help kind of bounce ideas off of. Other days it'd just be me sitting in front of my laptop, just trying to think about what's funny and then, spurring ideas and video ideas off of that. So it was really unique because it kind of helped me get better at just making something out of literally nothing. The team there is amazing. I wish them all the best, and it was an experience that I will never ever forget.
Wow. And like you're saying, it's so important to have those opportunities in the fields that you're passionate about. And so I think that that's amazing that was your first experience with it, because that's a huge, huge first encounter with that. So I know that was in the beginning, like you're saying, you just started off with your comedy career then, evolving to things like Netflix and working on proposals with shows. Talk to me about that process.
I think it's honestly what I have really dreamed for in comedy. I see this as kind of branching out this aspect more, because in terms of comedy, there's a lot of different avenues you can go down. You can do purely stand-up, you could be the guy on stage, and as I've developed further and further into this career path, I kind of like more of the behind the scenes work. I feel like I can truly be more creative, and I get more creative freeway if I just have other avenues to kind of venture it out. So when I got in touch with Netflix to do various show proposals, basically I get a bunch of comedians who come to me all the time and are like, hey, I have this idea for Netflix and I want to write it down and I want you to make it funny. It's called punching up is what I do. Okay. So they take me a script, or they give me a script and they say, Grant, I need you to punch this up, which means make it funny. So I read over their script, I give my 2 cents, and then we develop the show together. And then since it's not my creative property, it's their show, they continue and they go, they bring it to Netflix. So it's kind of like I get my name credited as a writer, and I get to kind of help along with the process.
Watch the East Daily Download weekdays at noon on Eastern North Carolina CW or on the WNCT mobile app. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Use the hashtag East Daily Download.
So I enjoy this work because the amount of shows that I've worked on is crazy, all crazy ideas.
And that's such an accomplishment to be able to have those different experiences every day and working with different people to develop and flush out those ideas. Something that I really think stood out from what you were saying is the different avenues that you have if you want to pursue a career in comedy. I think that's really important because you might not know about the different roles that come together in that field, and you can develop in improv and stand-up while still doing other proposals and things like that you're talking about. So for you, Grant, the future, I guess, what are you wanting to do next? It seems like you've got a lot on your roster already.
Honestly, what I'm wanting to do next, it's a passion project that I'm working on because the one thing that I'm struggling with right now is, I started comedy always, every time I've done something cool in comedy, it's been for fun. I've been like, oh, this would be cool to do. But as I've been doing it more and more professionally, I'm now treating it as comedy is my work. And I'm kind of getting less and less enjoyment from it. So I've started working on a passion project of mine where I want to make a documentary relating to, the earlier sides of stand-up. But it's crazy how much of this scene that not a lot of the public sees. And I kind of want to show that this exists all over the entire country. So I am currently editing. I got some more filming to do, but it's nice because it's related to comedy, but it doesn't have to be funny. So it's a breath of fresh air for me.
Yeah, that's really cool. So you're staying in your passion, but just finding different avenues to make sure that you're still engaged every day. That's important. I think that what I was saying earlier about working in your passion, it's an amazing experience, but you can possibly get burnt out or just doing anything constantly. You have to stay refreshed. And I love that you thought about that and you're already pursuing that next step for you. That's amazing. So I do have to say, the host and executive producer of the show, he's a huge stand-up guy. And he did want me to ask you about, when you're coming up with jokes and things like that, is it more so just like experiences that you're having every day and you're kind of like writing them down as you go, or how are you really developing what joke you think is going to work at that open mic?
I usually write with multiple different things in mind. Like if something happens, my constant thought that I have every day is no matter what I'm doing, it's always, how can this be funny? And if something stays prevalent in my mind, then I'll start developing it even more and more. So it's not even on paper yet. All I do is describe new jokes as, when you're sitting with your friends and you all just like find something super, super funny. But if you told someone else, it just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
All stand-up jokes derive from that because all you have to do is make it funny to your friends. And then you make the audience your friend. So you have to take it and translate it to everybody. That's all really joke writing is. It's telling an audience what you find funny and giving them the mental path that you take to get there.
Awesome. And I know I was so glad to meet you at Pitch Street and see you up there doing your thing as the headliner for that show. And like you told me, that's where, you started. So it was really a full circle moment. And I was just happy to be a part of it.
Well, it was a pleasure meeting you two there. It was really nice. It was home. It made me feel happy. It was really nice that just everything came full circle, and it's always good to go back to your roots.
Yeah, I feel that. So thank you so much, Grant, for joining us on the show today.
So a man, let's call him John, a woman, let's call her Lauren, and another woman, let's call her Bryce, all walk into a bar. Funny thing is, you would have thought one of them would have seen it. Never mind, it's a terrible joke. Anyway, we are wrapping up today's episode talking to our friend Grant Janik. You can follow him on YouTube at Grant Janik. You can also go online to grantjanik.com to see his stand-up and see his comedy. thank you, Grant, for the time today. We really appreciate it. Don't forget to follow him, watch his stuff. Very funny guy. And that's really going to wrap up this episode. We love comedy. Check out, whether it's HBO, Netflix, or, you can watch sitcoms on CBS. WNCT, 9 on Your Side, has sitcoms. They're great. Ghosts, Be Positive. We don't have Big Bang Theory anymore, but there's a lot of great sitcoms, so check them out. We don't really have a lot on the CW, though. But you know what? This show is funny, right? So check out these daily download for your daily dose of laughter. So long, everybody.
Closed captioning for the East Daily Download is sponsored by Hearing Life.